Hello. Hopefully this works all right. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think when I was growing up, like I did, we would maybe go to like museums. Like my dad would take me to like museum at the weekend, but I don't really remember been kind of exposed to lots of contemporary art. But yeah, I was exposed to lots of creativity. So it was, yeah, always kind of, yeah, family of like musicians and creative people. So it was always kind of expected that I would be creative probably in some way, which was, yeah, so it was supportive. And other met a lot of other artists that said it was just really not kind of supported or encouraged in them to have this path or this career as an artist. But yeah, I was lucky in that it was always like very much encouraged and supported. But yeah, I think always like I've yeah spoken before about like being in high school, and it was kind of the only thing that I really wanted to do and concentrate on was art, even though I didn't do very well at high school. I think I got like a C in higher art. Yeah, but I think that's kind of partly to do with the way that high school art is taught, and it still is, sadly. A lot of students that come to us at college have had a horrible experience at school. So that's kind of why I'm really keen to be supporting FE. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Ah, that's interesting. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think for me, that was definitely the case. It was quite rigid and it was quite kind of like, draw this, go and, copy this photograph. And it was hard to like find something that was a hook for yourself, something that really sparked your interest. And actually, it was, I think just before I'd started the CAT course, so like early 20s, and I went to, I think actually part of like the pre-start task was like go over the summer and go and visit exhibitions and like take a sketchbook and write down what you think of them. And I took that really seriously. I like literally went to so many exhibitions over the summer with my little baby toddler in a pram. And I remember going to see Tracy M in exhibition at Modern Art Gallery. It was like that 20-year retrospective. And just walking around that and being like, oh my God, like this is, oh, okay, this is what art can be. Just so many things that connected with me and like, talking about, even just talking about maternity and motherhood and like deeply personal stuff. And I was like, okay, cool, right? This is the kind of art I want to be making and experiencing. So that was definitely like my point of my little like turning point experience when I was like, oh, okay, I can see what kind of artist I might want to aspire to. But before that, I hadn't really been exposed to that kind of creativity. Not at all, no. No. Yeah. So yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I think it just really sort of opened up to so many different possibilities and ways of thinking and ways of working. Um, maybe it's so long ago now. I'm trying specifics is like hard to remember now, but yeah, I remember just really sort of taking it all on board and kind of finding my own artistic identity really over those 2 years. And I had that, it was really great for giving you that grounding as well. So lots of kind of interdisciplinary working. And I think the small cohorts and the community aspect of it was crucial really. It was really quite close knit small classes. Um, yeah, and it just kind of that I think I really needed that as well. I think a lot for lots of students, that's really kind of a USP in terms of needing that extra, like actually seeing your tutors a lot and engaging with peers, and there was lots of kind of activity happening, um, extracurricular activity, and just yeah. And we went on a trip, went to Berlin, like there was loads of stuff. It was great. I think that developed quite a bit later. Yeah. I think CAP was really just like figuring out who I was as an artist and what I was interested in making. Um, but yeah, the socially engaged stuff came quite a bit later, and it kind of developed over time. Like even when after CAP, I went on to do a degree, and it was still quite, yeah, I wouldn't say it was particularly socially engaged or participatory. There was quite a big gap, actually. I think there was about at least 10 years between graduating with my degree and then doing my master's at QMU. It's like a 10-year gap. And it was during that time that it kind of, yeah, the practice kind of shifted and changed. Yeah. Mm. Sure. Yeah. I mean, again, I suppose that's why it's called a practice, because it shifts as you develop it over the years and kind of shifts and changes. But my core kind of practice is really centered around caregiving structures. Um, and again, that kind of shifted. So, it was maybe, well, it still is about my own personal experience as a mother, now a caregiver to an adult. Um, so that's kind of core, that kind of autobiographical element, but really it's kind of looking at wider structures, or yeah, wider sort of inequalities around care within capitalism. And yeah, sort of it's quite, yeah, it could be quite political. But yeah, and that's kind of where I bring in other voices as well, and the more participatory aspects. So bringing in other experiences of mothers and caregivers. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's, a big part of why spilt milk was such an important part of my practice over the past however many years, 10 years or whatever. Because it's, I've got my experience obviously, and I can express that in my art, but it's so diverse and people connect with lots of different things. So actually bringing in wider range of voices and having like an interdisciplinary kind of intersectional view of these things is so important to kind of, yeah, guess it's about amplifying voice, and then absolutely then hopefully other people kind of recognize that. And yeah, exactly, the power of creative communities, I think. Mm. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of started basically because I was struggling to find any, well, I mean, there's the kind of logistical inequalities of trying to be a practicing artist while having small children, having a family, and I was a single parent, so it was quite tricky in terms of like the logistics of it, but also just not having any role models really, or not being able to see your own experience reflected within the arts and sort of local creativity was really difficult because it makes you feel really isolated, and so I kind of gradually found other people that were like, yep, I'm a practicing artist. I've got kids. I'm making work about these things as well. And it was kind of like a snowball effect. I found a few people started off small, and it really, I think it was kind of surprised me in a way of how many people joined and wanted to be involved. Like, like hundreds. It's mad. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It became, and again, it was thinking about like how can we make opportunities that are accessible. And we used even, pre-COVID, where we're using the internet and digital means and Instagram back when it was good. But yeah, to connect with one another. And it was kind of like finding these people that were halfway around the world but had a really universal experience and challenges really. So yeah, I mean, it started off as just one exhibition in Leith, a small collective, and then it snowballed, and I was doing workshops with local mums. What else did we? Oh, we did so much. I mean, like, yeah, we ended up doing loads of exhibitions, big, huge sort of group shows. We did a lot of stuff online. We did artist talks. We did residencies. Um, so much I can't even remember to be honest. It was a lot. Yeah, over the course of about 8 or 9 years, and it's only like last year that I decided actually it's time to kind of call it a day. Um, but yeah, as you say, there's other people and organizations starting to kind of spring up. Yeah. Yeah, I did. So in the beginning, I mean, it was always been pretty, it was pretty DIY grassroots. And I kind of set it up as a membership model. Um, so that, I mean, it very cheaply, and it was a kind of sliding scale because I always want to make sure it was accessible. So like it started off, I think it was 20 quid a year or something to be a member, and that kind of just paid for like the website, and the core kind of running costs. And I got some seed funding for the first sort of few events. Yeah, little pots of funding here and there, but again, I wasn't paying myself. I had day jobs, if you like, and my own practice. And then there was a period where I got some funding from First Port, so through the Scottish government. I got a couple of grants from them. It was kind of like startup grants, and they were kind of encouraging me to turn it into a social enterprise that had a kind of functional business model. So it took a huge amount of work. There was a period of a couple of years where I was paying myself something. Things were happening, but there was also a huge amount of pressure because they were like, well, you need to be self-sustainable, you need to be generating an income. And it just got so to the point where it kind of tipped, and I thought, this is kind of too far removed from what I set it up for. Like, who am I actually serving right now? And I was really like burning myself out, just working ridiculous hours, and I just kind of thought I got to the point I thought, oh, like no, this isn't working. I'm not like, this is not Dragon's Den. I don't I'm not like a businesswoman and I don't really want to be making profit off people. That's not the point. And the point was, especially thinking about my own experience as a working class single mother, that had no money ever, like that's, it just kind of became a bit, yeah, a bit too far removed from my original goal. And I think that's why I kind of, that and just, yeah, the pressure of trying to kind of fund it and as well as pay your own bills. Yeah. But it just got to the point where I thought if I can't do it properly, like that in a way that kind of fits my values, then I'd rather not do it at all. So that's when I just sort of stepped back. But yeah, it's kind of been like a bit of reflection, and I'll probably do something else at some point. But yeah, it's good to just kind of take a pause sometimes, I think, and let things settle and reflect. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's yeah, loads of I mean my practice kind of shifted and it's more participatory. So I've done lots of projects, if you like, that are kind of maybe um yeah, sort of shorter projects, but definitely still like my activism core will never it'll never go away. I'll always be doing something, but just maybe in different ways. Yeah. Um yeah, and I'm also kind of working as an art lecturer now. So that's nice to have like some steady employment in a job that I'm really passionate about and like working within education and especially FE. So yeah, finding that balance. Yeah, so it's UHI, so Murray School of Art in Elgin. So yeah, yeah, I'm the program leader for the fine art degree, but it's kind of set in a FE college. So we do courses from like UAL right up to degree. Um, and it's yeah, very small cohort, so kind of like similar to CAP. I'm like that kind of, I want to kind of create that kind of community there with our students. Definitely, yeah. Yeah, we've actually got a student currently that did CAP last year, so it's quite nice. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Um, yeah, so that kind of it was actually the first year that the course, because there was a similar course that I'd always kind of had my eye on. I thought, oh, that's quite interesting, but not quite sure. And then this, yeah, the social practice course kind of was developed, and I thought actually it was just at the point of it was during COVID basically. Um, so it was 2020, 2021. So yeah, we'd kind of been through some lockdowns and actually I'd lost all my freelance jobs like lots of other people. And I was a bit like, well, may as well go and do a master's. um, yeah, because I like to keep busy. But it was always kind of on the radar. And I thought it was a good point because I'd kind of been working a bit more community focused, doing some socially engaged projects, but actually to go and really just have that year to focus on what that looked like for me, both the kind of theory behind it, but also actually the practical sort of, yeah, just learning new skills and resources and having that support. So it was really, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really good. I really enjoyed kind of digging into the theory a bit more, and the kind of breadth of what a social practice can look like, which is really broad. And I think that's when my work started becoming a bit more participatory. So yeah, I think now it's more working with other people, but in a participatory way. So I'm still making work with them. So there's still something, there's an outcome. Quite often there's some sort of tangible outcome. but bringing in other people's voices and looking at different ways of doing that. So yeah, it was great. It was a really good course. Very much recommend. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. I think, yeah, it's a good question, and it's kind of one that for me kind of ebbs and flows. And I guess partly there was, periods where, especially within Spilt Milk or where I was working on other projects, that all my time and energy was going into facilitating and, delivering and creating opportunities for other people, which I'm really passionate about. But there is that kind of balance of like, oh, well, but I feel like I'm not giving myself and my own practice enough time. So kind of pulling back to focus a bit more on that. Yeah, I think I'm not sure if I've ever completely found the balance, to be honest. Um, but I think that's maybe why, yeah, I mean, was it just last year, I did a commission with Outer Spaces in Aberdeen Council and kind of found quite a good balance in terms of bringing in other people's voices and working with other people, but actually I've physically made something out of it. Yeah, yeah. Bit of both. I mean, yeah, so I was kind of had this body of work that I was kind of developing, but I knew I wanted to kind of bring in other people's voices. So it was a case of going to, yeah, again, through local community initiatives and networks in Aberdeen, and going and engaging with people, sort of going to them into their groups. And there was, doing creative exercises, creative things with them. But again, it is interesting, that balance, because there's some groups that I've worked with and they're really keen to make something and have that shown, and that's really like an important part of that project. But actually other times it's not really about, they're not that interested about having something they've physically made shown. It's more about having the chance to be heard and having their voice heard. And I guess the role of, in that kind of context, for me, the role of the artist is to figure out how to bring that um, into your own work while respecting their autonomy, I guess. Yeah, it's an interesting one, and it's something I'm still kind of maybe figuring out and as part of my research. Um, yeah, I mean, and the piece that we're talking about ended up being this kind of weighted blanket, this textile piece, but it had a voice recording, something that I'm still working on, where I got their written responses and I narrated their responses. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I brought their voice into that, I guess. But yeah, and I guess there was an interesting module in the MA actually called, I think it was called The Only Way is Ethics, actually. So it's looking, yeah, it was a really good module. It's really looking into the ethics of socially engaged practice. Um, yeah, how do you work with people in an ethical way, especially when money and funding's like there's so much to it. But yeah, really interesting. Yeah, Exactly. Yes. And profiting off it. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and people, I think quite often with socially engaged practice, people can get, due to funding, like local council or something, will kind of, there is a bit of a, somebody will get helicoptered into a community that they have no personal connection with, told to make work, and then they're just taken out, and this community is kind of left. Yeah, there's loads of, we talk all day about it, to be honest, but yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. I think that's part of, yeah, sorry. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's part of it. And that's really a big part of why I started wanting to work with people more, is because actually it's just about the opportunity, isn't it? Like who gets to make art, who gets access to it. Um, and yeah, there's still huge inequalities in that aspect, in that respect. But even, yeah, just being able to go in and work with a group of people that maybe haven't had the opportunity to make or to have their voices explored and expressed, it's like so valuable still. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know if I would say I'm a writer because but yeah, I write. I don't know how yeah, but definitely it's such a big part of my practice. I'm starting to doubt myself as a writer these days just because there's so many good writing out there. But yeah, I think it is quite an important part of it. And I think partly like doing the masters and getting back into the academic writing was really quite an enjoyable experience for me. I actually really like writing, which most people find really weird. But that kind of research part of it is really you're like, oh. um like yeah, I find it really useful. But then quite often I'll be asked to write. Like I've had a few commissions where people have or organizations have asked me to kind of write more directly about my experience. So I guess it's kind of another channel that maybe, yeah, another channel for kind of getting these thoughts and experiences and research out there. Mostly, yeah, people ask me to write or speak about, yeah, my own experience as a single mum or working class artist, etc. Um, yeah, but I think it's always there. I'm kind of, yeah, I'm working on some writing at the moment actually for a friend's PhD thesis, just doing a zine. So yeah, yeah. Mm, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and I mean, I guess there's so many different forms of like writing is good, as you say, it's like quite a good reflective experience as well. And sometimes having a bit of a break, so you maybe go and do something yeah, work on a project and then actually writing about it later, you can be like, oh yeah, that's what I was doing there. That and like bringing in some of that theory and research to kind of figure out where your work sits. I think, yeah, that's really, I find it really important to continue to do that. Um, yeah, and also kind of, I think these days I'm a bit more engaged in this more academic side of things because I've obviously now got access to all the journals and stuff, which is a good perk of the job. Yeah. Yeah. Um, kind of. I mean, it gets brought into gets brought into various modules that we teach. But I think actually it's as a sort of team, we sort of delve into our own research and like we want to be teaching stuff that we are passionate about and we know about and like kind of like tying into our own specialisms. We've got quite a diverse sort of teaching team. They've all got, they're all practicing artists as well as lecturers. So it's good to kind of just dig into that. So even recently I was doing an online class for a sort of second year BA, and it was really good because I was kind of like had to do a bit of research and um to prep for my class, my lecture. But yeah, it's good. I'm enjoying that part of it. Yeah, I know. Absolutely. Mm. Yeah, loads, but I always hark back to the sort of 60s and 70s, to be honest, like that sort of second wave feminist movement and the kind of work that was going on there. I mean, there's loads of contemporary artists that really inspire me, but I think my research quite often links back to, like Joe Spence, or Muriel Lederman, ukuleles, kind of maintenance art performances, or um, yeah, so many, Martha Rosler, Judy Chicago, just like, yeah, I think a lot of maybe I think of the older I get, the more radicalized I'm becoming, which is um yeah, exactly. I know. I'm just like exactly. Yeah. But I think, yeah, again, looking back at kind of it does feel like we're in this bit of a cycle of unlearning. But yeah, looking back, it's kind of these practices and figuring out how that works in contemporary contexts. And yeah, yeah, no problem at all.